Hey plant peeps, welcome to El Pilar Orchids. I'm Travis and thanks for checking in. We're going to tell a little story tonight of a couple orchids, the fallen orchids, or the orchids that have fallen at some point in the recent past. And so yeah, let's take a quick look at them and maybe we'll look at a couple of things in bloom. I'll show you what's maybe a few blooms while you're here. And the first orchid that we want to look at that fell over is an orchid that we got from Ynse. So Ynse, if you're watching, here's an update on the area. This is an area hyacinthoides. So we got this plant last summer from Ynse. I'll link to his channel down below. And it is putting on a couple new growths here, as you can see, one there and then a smaller one down over here. Looking at the roots, and so we do got some nice roots going, so it's looking good. Now, this plant fell out of its pot about a month after we got it and potted it up. It was really top heavy, and it at the time it had basically no roots. It came to us kind of bare rooted, and I guess and going into it just yeah. So it fell out also because I hooked it. We had this plant here growing next to it, and it's in this like hanging basket. This is the dendrochilum, and anyway, at the time they were growing next to each other and I accidentally caught that hook onto one of the leaves and it just like ripped it out of the pot. And then it sat that way for a while. It still had a few tiny little new roots growing. So I left it that way for a couple weeks and then repotted it. And now it's finally starting to, get stabilized. And that's great to see. So thanks. Appreciate it, Ynse. Hopefully we can do another plant trade this summer. Maybe we'll make it over there to the Netherlands. And then just also another fallen orchid that we've shown on our channel several times. And actually Cody, one of our viewers, so Cody, if you're watching, this update is because you asked about an update for the Gigantea. And so we figured, well, since we're telling this story about fallen orchids, here is the Gigantea, which we've done a few videos on this, like I mentioned, and that damage there is from when it fell over off the top shelf of a bookshelf that we have here and use as a plant shelf. And amazingly, nothing else happened to the plant. It did kind of fall out of its pot and it lost some media down around and now it's got some air spaces, but we did not repot it at the time or do anything else to it. We just kind of left it. I figure it's good to be airy. I mean, the roots all still look pretty good. They're green. I will water this tomorrow. And just so, general care real quick, we do water this about once every week and a half or so now in the winter time. In the summer, we water it once a week. It's in a 50-50 mix of bark and leca. That's just kind of what we've settled on as like a good orchid media. And now this year, let's pull it down. So this year it put on 2 new spikes. Now it's going to be really hard to show. How am I going to? I got to put it back. How am I going to show this spike? All right, so this summer, at the end of last summer and into fall, it started growing this new spike right here. And as you can see, the spikes like grow along the surface and down behind the leaves, and you can barely see them. And then it started growing a second new spike, as you can see there, the one that we've kind of got propped up on the plastic just so it didn't grow down into the media. Because that's what these spikes do. I mean, normally, obviously in nature, like with a lot of the, basically all Phalaenopsis, they're all epiphytes, and so they grow on trees. And yeah, so naturally, well, in nature, these spikes would just kind of grow down along the trunk of the tree and be fine. They would have plenty of space. But in a pot like this, yeah, it's tricky. I mean, this is last year, so you can see last year's spike. I can pull it off. There's last year. Well, no, that spike actually, I guess, is from 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago now. It didn't bloom. And yeah, all of the tips of the spikes are starting to like swell, but it's not flowering yet. Now, what do we do with this plant? So typically the Gigantea, Phalaenopsis gigantea, it's kind of been advised, I've read online, that in the winter time you want to give it more light, even though it's a bit cooler. And you give it more light because it grows in like deciduous forests. So the trees that it grows in, up high in the tree, will lose its leaves in the winter, and so actually the plant gets more light. And then in the summer, you kind of keep it warm and good airflow and a little bit shadier. You don't want to get it like full blast direct sunlight in the summertime. And it is a slow grower, it's quite large. The flowers are nice. Yeah, show the flowers from a couple years ago. But the Gigantea starship, yeah, took a dive. Where is that plant shelf? Oh yeah, it's this one. It's this plant shelf right here that it was on, and I believe at the time it was on like the third shelf, third level right here. And when it fell over, it looked like that shelf pinched the leaf, and that's why it got that hole in the leaf there. So that's where that came from. To look at a couple new blooms, things that are happening real quick to end today is, yeah, the Oncidium Titanium Treasure is blooming for the first time for us. Has a kind of a scent, but not too much smell just yet. So I'm hoping that the smell develops a little bit more, because it doesn't smell a whole lot just yet. But it looks pretty cool, and yeah, it's putting on a few more spikes. So it should have a nice display here soon, in a few weeks. The Barcaria Whartoniana opened another flower, probably its last flower for the year. And that one actually we could include in the Fallen Orchid story time, because it just kept jumping out of its pot. Well, I say its pot. We grow it in a little glass. Where is it? Yeah, if you haven't seen this plant, see that like a glass back there? That's the bottom of the plant and the root mass. And so the spike is just under the Hyacinthoides here. Well, I guess quick update from last week's video on the deflasking. You can see the Barcarias here are still looking good. The buds are still developing. We did take it out. We found a little problem. So this raffia that we use to kind of tie the plants on, I thought it would be nice and low impact. Like I thought it'd be a gentle kind of wrapping, but what we found is that with water, I tried to keep water down in the bottom of this to increase the humidity in this little tank. And with that water, this raffia just stayed wet all the time, which I don't want these roots now to stay wet. I guess it's fine for a while when, they first came out of flask, if the roots stay moist, for a longer time. But as they get older and more established, I don't want these roots to stay moist all the time. So yeah, I had them hanging out today. I did water them this morning, and then I hung them, just like hung them on here for a minute to dry them out. So that's still going. Yeah, and the dendrobiums are back in here, and I will open that up. Thanks for checking in, guys. Make sure you secure your orchids so they don't fall over, but even if they do, yeah, it's not the end of the world. Hope you guys have a good one, and we will see you back here at El Pilar soon.